everybody, and welcome to the New Earth Co-Creators Podcast. We are excited to be here. Yay. And I want to get going talking about something that I think is really, really important. First of all, let me introduce my lovely co-host, Miss Isabel. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I don't know, with the full moon yesterday, we
It
still feel
was.
the energy, right? I mean, I don't know. I feel like a whole lot of things are going to unfold for new beginnings, for new opportunities. So I've been on this constant high. But it's so funny when you're on a constant high, you wonder like when is the next low coming? And so I keep, catching myself as well. I'm like, why am I even thinking that? Why am I even expecting that? And so
Right.
yes, it's just always continuing to like, no, I'm gonna take this moment and enjoy this moment and create more amazing moments. So I've been doing really great. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I am Deborah, or Rev Deb, or Deborah Bishop, or whoever you want to call me. I'll answer to a lot of things. Anyway, we were talking a little bit about, community and the fact that for a lot of individuals, coming into community, not really knowing, coming into the sacred economy we have here, coming into all of these different sort of realities that we're talking about, I think it's really important. We have to discuss the fact that this is not a to-do list item,
Yeah.
right? Like coming into community, being part of community, building a reality, creating, consciously creating something and co-creating and collaboration. These are not like 20 more items that you have to add to your to-do
To-do
list.
list. Yeah. Yeah. Being in community, I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed in general, why people don't have friends, why people don't connect with their neighbors, because it feels just like another thing I have to do and I have to take care of, and the people I have to take care of to what already is stressing me out or where I'm trying to survive. Because we have been trained to constantly be in survival mode. And most of the time, let's be honest, that survival mode is connected to money.
Mm-hmm.
I need to work my job from,
Well,
15
especially these days.
hours
Right.
a day. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
inflation and everything. And but I have really noticed for myself, and I have been there for a lot of times, right? I mean, who hasn't been there? I'm like, oh, this bill is due, we need to pay this. I mean, for me it's literally, we have been going through our adoption journey for the last 6 years, and there's a lot of expenses without any results,
Mm-hmm.
and you just keep sweating it, like, oh, I can't add anything, I can't do anything. But I have to say, as soon as I stepped actually into community, if it is a global community where you can just talk about things, or even just connecting with your neighbors, things do become easier because you can ask for support. You can ask for advice, that otherwise you would go in your head and try to figure it out yourself. But a lot of people approach everything new as another item on your to-do list. I'm like, oh, but then I have to do this, and then I have to check in, and then I actually have to talk to people and I have to do this. And it gets so overwhelming when the reality is, if we really step out of this constant overwhelm and this narrative of a to-do list in general. I don't have a to-do list anymore. I have a to-be list now.
Mm-hmm.
When we step out of that, things just become much more, you're just more in the flow, you're just more supported in all ways. And that's really what we're trying to bring across, right? With this podcast, with what we're building with New Earth co-creators, with the gifting economy. I mean, I think we're making life a bit too hard.
I think so too. And you said it, you hit on it so much because in inviting people into the sacred economy aspect of our community, it's really fascinating to me that people aren't necessarily seeing the opportunity first. I
Mm.
mean, they're going, wow, and then they're going, oh, but I have to do this, and then I have to do that, and it's like the have tos and the, oh, I don't know, and then I've
Yeah.
got to add that, and then it's got to be, and it's like you don't really have to even join this community, right? There's no have to. We would love to have you here, and if you join into the economy with all the support that we can offer, yeah, there's some things to do in being accountable and showing up
Yeah.
and building community, because everybody has a place in a community. Everybody contributes to a community one way or another. We all contribute. That's part of community.
Yeah.
However, right? There is no, like, nobody is going to like twist your arm, threaten you, or otherwise hold you to this strange idea that, this has to now add to your stress levels, increase your cortisol. All those things are just, they're not present here. And I think that that's a very foreign concept in modern society today, because guess what? It is everywhere else. People don't feel like they have a choice.
True.
Right. And so coming here, it's like, oh, okay, now we're breaking into this whole new idea that you're giving me a choice to become involved, a choice to show up, a choice to contribute, a choice to do things differently, a choice to be in a decentralized system, a choice to invite others to join me on this journey. But the key word here is it's a choice. And
Yeah.
and I think that that's one of the big elements. People say, but I have to do this now and I have to do that. And every time we feel like we have to do something, there's this natural pushback, I think, that comes back from childhood when we really did have to do things because that's the way it
Because they
was.
said so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's that pushback that we don't want anybody to tell us what we have to do. And nobody is except ourselves, which is really kind of fascinating to me.
Very true. And I'm a huge supporter of going from I have to I get to.
Mm-hmm.
Because truly, if we go back to the old ways, I mean, those are ancient ways of being with each other, of supporting each other. But we're just taking it to a whole another level because, well, in that ancient days, they didn't have the advantages of social media and internet. They couldn't just connect. We wouldn't have been able to connect, even though we're just 7 hours apart, right? Um, but that is our advantage now. So we get to do that, and by by stepping back into this ancient way, this natural way of being with each other, we take a lot of stress load off on the other side of what we have created that we feel we have to do, otherwise we can't survive.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the back, or the community has our back, especially from a financial perspective. That is a big part of New York co-creators. What would be possible if we could just invite everyone that we know and just build something really incredible and sustainable in that way, right? So that we can take other things that we really don't want to have on our to-do list off and just create a to-be list.
Well, exactly. I love the to-be list. I love that. Who am I being? And with this community in place, and if we bring the economic reality to the table, there is a truth to what you're saying in that if we really would, when we really do show up and just be,
Yeah.
who do we get and get do what we get to do here, which is awesome, be who we get to be here, then there is a truth to the idea that you could conceivably let go of anything else that does not serve you.
Yeah.
And that to me is so enticing, right? It's like, okay, all right, that would be really cool. That would mean that I wouldn't have to get into rush hour traffic. That would mean, or do something, even if I'm doing it remotely, that I don't really love. Like I wouldn't have to do that. I wouldn't have to. So for people who have children, I don't. You do. I have furry ones, but
Yeah.
that means that I don't have to miss some event with my child. I don't
Yeah.
have to choose between doing something I'm that I really want to be with them, but I have to be there because these are the things I have to do in order to get where I need to get to maybe one day hopefully dream of the life that we're actually speaking about right now.
Yeah, as a mother, you want the best for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And by now, especially those who feel drawn to our podcast, probably know that the public school system is not necessarily the best for our children, that there is a lot of indoctrination, and it is not of the nature of a child to sit for 6 7 hours straight on a chair without, reset. What is that, even 30 minutes? I mean, that is not to the advantage of the development of our children. So creating something like a gifting economy can really take the pressure off of having to make that choice of, oh, well, I can't afford anything else, so this is my only choice, versus, you know what? I can actually do this, and I can take them to a Montessori school or to a Waldorf school or create my own school if I wanted to. Especially here in the US, we have this advantage where this is possible. Other
Hmm.
countries, it's not even possible to that level. Even though I also see, like, for example, in Germany, I start to see shifts within the society as well at what they want to accept for their children and what not. So there's more of a push for Waldorf schools now.
Hmm.
But it's just not possible for a lot of parents who need both incomes, to
Yeah.
just pay rent or mortgage.
Well, I think it was probably, let's see, in the 50s, in the 1950s, so last century.
Mm.
And neither one of us were here then, but I do know that it was possible for, like, a man could get a job in a gas station. His wife could be at home. Now, this may not be what everybody wants to hear or not what they
Right.
strive for, but just the simplicity of this. A man could work at a service station, pumping gas, taking care of people that are coming in to get their gas, an important part, And when it's really cold or rainy or icky out, don't we wish we had somebody to do our gas for us? But anyway, and their wife could be at home with the children, and they could have a house, and they could go on vacation,
Mm.
and they could feed their family, and their kids got educated, and he could do that working at a gas station, not even owning the gas station, but working at a gas station. Now fast forward, where are we? I don't know, 70 years later, something like that. um you can't even, not only are there not jobs, there's very rare that you find a full service gas station, but the idea that one parent could work in a service based industry
Yeah.
and support their family and educate their children and go on vacation, it's like, where are you from? Right, like, that's not even possible in modern society today. It's like, two people have to be working, they
Mm.
need to be making X, and if they can't, then they need to have, Airbnb, or they need to rent a room to a roommate, or they need to do whatever. And their kids education, well, I
And
have a
that doesn't even include any like luxury items. That
no,
means
that doesn't
you
even
have
include healthcare,
a
actually, in
moderate
this country.
home, it doesn't mean you have a huge house with, I don't know, 5 6 bedrooms. It just means living within your means, and yet you still wonder where all that money goes, right?
Exactly. And
I
in some
mean,
cases, for some people, it means they never get to own a home. In some place,
yeah.
that's becoming more of a reality now, because of just what's happening with the gentrification and corporation ownership and all the conglomerates running everything and all that kind of stuff. It's just easing all of these things out to where, I don't know that the movie The Matrix, old though it may be, really got it all that wrong. It's sort of like,
No, I
what direction
honestly
are
I
we headed
don't
in?
think, but I also do appreciate Keanu Reeves because he seems to really have a handle on on those kind of things. Like he has been talking openly about that. He actually believes that this is what we live in within a matrix that we can actually step out of.
Yes, and that's the
Um,
important thing, is to
and
step
that's what we're
out.
doing here, right?
Yes.
And I think that's why it's so difficult for a lot of people to even realize, oh, what I have been living so far may have not actually been the reality that I could have created, or I was on purpose being locked into this matrix just to be, just to serve someone else.
Yeah, but I like to say this to all my clients that I work with too, because I do a lot of trauma work, as I know you do as well. And the decisions and the core values and the lies that become reality for people who live inside these belief systems that are related to the trauma, and
Yeah.
what that teaches them about how life is, which is why I like to call it a lie.
Mm.
The whole thing I like to say is that, okay, so we live our lives based on a certain set of what we think are facts,
Yeah.
information, right?
Yeah.
And So there's no reason for anybody to ever feel guilty, bad, have pain or shame or anything around what they chose to do or what they didn't choose to do, um, in the respect that they were operating on whatever information they had. What we're suggesting
You
is
pretty
there's
much
other,
always do the best in the moment
exactly.
with
There's
what you
other
know.
information now,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
offering other information. We're offering a different way of thinking. We're offering a different reality that all are welcome in, that has maybe different
Yeah.
demands of how we think and feel and who we be. However, this is just new information. So the fact that people go, "Oh, I lived my life this way and I didn't have to," so what? You did what you needed to do based on what you understood, and that created the person that you are today. So that's awesome. Here's another way. Now, knowing this information, now we want to move forward. Now, what are you choosing?
That's right. We always have a choice in the moment, right?
Mhm.
Always. And sometimes what I have noticed with a lot of people, and I talk about it in my documentary, The Power of Connection, oftentimes what we have created so far becomes our ideology, because it's, the what we believe to be true as our identity becomes our ideology. And when we idolize certain ways of how we live, who we think we are, how we operate, it's hard to let that go. It is very difficult to just say, oh, I have to actually let all of this go to step into this new, but my heart is really pulling me toward this new. But, my mind, my ego is like, yeah, but, we need to hold this up because what would people think about us? And sometimes we just have to make those very clear cuts and just say, quite frankly, fuck it and just go for it. Like, let's just move forward and create something new. I mean, the best decisions I have ever made looking back were the ones where I just jumped, where
Mhm.
I realized I started to overthink. I started to overthink. It's like, you're standing on a wall. When you actually go down, in, oh, I'm missing the word now. Well,
Descend.
when you stand up on a wall, everything seems even higher, right? Like if you kneel down, it's like, oh, it's actually not that high. But when you stand up, it's like, oh, that's too
Oh
high. I
yeah,
can't jump over that.
absolutely.
So you go into your head, I'm like, I can't jump. If I jump, then I might break my foot. And this has happened, this has happened. And then how often have we realized that while we overthink, we just jump? Our body just goes for it. And then we wonder, like, why were we even scared? What was so scary about it? And it's the perception from what we look at. But when at some point our heart, it's almost like your body just goes by itself, and you just like you jump. Like, I do not remember when I first came to the US, the plane ride. Like, I was
Mm.
18, 19 for the first time I left my home country, Germany, and I didn't speak any English really. I understood a little bit. And I do not remember. The last thing I remember that I was extremely nervous. I waved at my parents and was gone. And they said, you never even look back. And we knew then that you most likely will not come back. And I don't remember anything else until I got to the family's place. And it's
Wow.
because my mind was trying to trick me into, about what if this happens and this and this. And my heart took over and you just jump. And looking back, that has been the best decision ever, because if I would have never done that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the family that I have. I wouldn't have the son that I have, my husband, the family that I gained in terms of not blood family, but just like-hearted people. None of that would have happened if I wouldn't have just jumped. And sometimes we just need to leave the old behind and consciously make the decision to jump.
Very true. And interestingly enough, it's sort of like what brought me to where I live now. It's sort of like that was not really, never thought I would live in Nashville, never necessarily made the conscious choice. So this is the place I really want to live.
All right.
But life has a way of bringing you where you're supposed to be, because there is no other explanation that I have for the fact that I'm still here, other than that this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And with all
Yeah.
due respect to Nashville, a lot of people absolutely love Nashville, and Nashville is a beautiful place to live. So I don't mean it that way at all. I mean it more from just this idea of the choices that mold us, that
Yeah.
create what they create for us. Because this is the place where honestly I became the artist that I am today. This
Yeah.
is the place where I developed at a deeper level. And it I'm not saying it couldn't have happened elsewhere, but it wouldn't have happened the way that it did. And the way that it did, although it's been personally was a very, 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 very hard journey. It was very hard. It has nothing to do with the geographic location. Is was the react that it's like through the fire forged something.
Yeah.
So I can just relate that to what you're saying, and that getting on a plane, not even really speaking the language, the fire forged something, and that fire is scary, because fire is the fire is the essence of creation. It's also the essence of destruction. So it can be very terrifying to step into the fire, but it's something that's required. And it's sometimes the fire burns away the old belief system in order to allow for the new to come. So,
For the seeds to
fire's
sprout,
amazing.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they do controlled fires, forest fires, controlled
Yep.
forest fires, where they clear out the old soil, and then underneath that comes the new growth. Sometimes they have even discovered, when they do controlled burns, that some amazing plants come up that they haven't come up in hundreds of years, and those seeds come to life.
Yes.
They wake up again, and they come back up and create something really beautiful, but especially harmony within the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And when
Yeah.
they don't do that, areas that don't do controlled burning and so forth, if there ever is a fire, that's why the fire goes completely out of control, because
Yeah.
it's never been allowed. So it just starts to consume. And so I think we're looking at this whole kind of concept metaphorically of just the reality of people being so concerned when they hear about something a little bit different like this, and not necessarily knowing what to do with this information, because we've never had the control burn in our lives to where we've
Yeah.
been shown that there's something
It's
else,
always been
that
the
there's
crazy wildfires, right?
right.
Always chaos, always something going on, and then we just try to survive. Now we can control. Now we can control what needs to be burned, to allow
And be
the
in charge.
beauty. Yeah.
Yeah.
To allow the beauty to come back through the essence of who we truly are,
Mhm.
so that we can step into a community that has our back, that can support us. I mean, what we're creating with New Earth co-creators is just something beautiful, because when we again have this control burn, the forest burn, we're just going to stay with that analogy at this
Yeah,
point.
I like controlling of the burning, but I don't like controlling life. I like being in charge of life. I like more
Okay,
control and
yes.
be in charge. Control burning, yes, because you have to control that. But being
Right.
in charge of life.
The
So
in
yes,
being in charge of the fire.
yes.
Um, Okay, so when we have that, now I lost my train of thought. When we have that, we can step into our own genius, and it comes with ease, it comes naturally to us. So it's not an extra to-do list, but you can step into your genius, and you can build something on the foundation of what we have created with New Earth co-creators, right? And co-create with us, yet within your own genius. So it organically and naturally comes with what you get to embrace about yourself, what you get to honor about who you truly are, and bring that to the table. Again, it's all about this to-be list, right? Instead of
Yeah.
this to-do list.
And witnessing the cause and effect of that, because I think that people also come from this place. Well, what if somebody does this and then they don't do anything? And it's like, well, nobody says you have to. Even here, even in our sacred economy, even
Yeah.
though it works when people show up, the reality is the cause and effect. If you actually come in and don't participate, at some point you're what we call sidelined, if you will. You're not kicked out of the community by any means, but you are sidelined. You're taken sort of off the playing field, because you're not actively creating, co-creating, supporting, or being
Yeah.
part of something. So we don't even have to really worry about that. At the end of
No.
the day, it's like you have the opportunity to be here. As you said, you get to have your being list. Who do I get to be? What do I get to do? How is that? Who am I? Yay, I get to show up and party and celebrate because this supports this. That's just such a joy. And I think that that's probably the most fascinating thing about this whole process is introducing people to the idea that joy is even feasible as a way of life.
Yeah. And I think that is hard for people to understand often because I mean, even for me, I've been doing meditation for many, many years, right? But it hasn't been until I really stepped into and let go of a lot of things that I thought I had to do and should be doing because, again, survival, I need this. Even though I'm also really passionate about it and good about it, but the way I felt like I had to do it didn't align. And it takes that joy away, this deep joy. And I really, really experienced that deep joy that I never really knew. I thought I did, but I didn't really know what it feels like to have this essence, like this core deep feeling of joy where you just feel like you could dance all day. How
Mm-hmm.
many people can say that this is I know what that feels like? There are not very many.
No,
They're not very
again,
many.
because we're inside of a system where we're really not in charge.
Yeah.
And if there's a controlled burn inside the system, it's like I believe inside the system we're talking about. And I don't believe I'm not afraid of it, and I don't see it as a reality personally,
Right.
but I am aware that for some it is definitely a real thing. And that's the burning away of their dreams, the burning away of their freedom, the burning away of their time, their health,
Yeah.
and personally, I think that it's time for us as human beings, wherever we're from, whatever color our skin is, whatever age we are, whatever our stories have been, it's time for us to find common ground and stand together and basically say enough of that.
Yeah.
Enough of that. There's a whole other playing field here that we can literally step onto and play the game of creation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want people to play the game of creation. Enough of this video gaming, destroying, destruction, murder, kill everybody, because that's what all of that seems to be. Not all of it.
Well, it's
But
true,
literal
especially when you
creative
talk to
creation.
younger people, right? Yeah, yes. And that's what really gets me excited. We just had this whole Chinese thing going on in on the news, right? With the weather balloon and all. I mean, this is the whole thing. We can do another show on this. No, we
That's
won't.
right. Happy,
We
happy
don't
New
even get to it. But I keep wondering, if people start to take those things that are supposed to have us be afraid and to instill that fear of, oh my God, and we could just all come together and like, oh yeah, let's just shoot it down. Just, bring a little um like a little bit of a joke back into life, like a little bit of, why don't we just all come together, just take the power away from those who are trying to stay in control of our lives and
Mhm.
just create something beautiful, something where we can meet in the middle, where we don't have to stand with the extremes just because we need to have an opinion to stand out, but where we can come together in harmony to build something where everyone can find themselves, can be themselves, and yet have a support system. That's what I see possible for the future. And I think
Yeah.
what is already possible in the now.
And I think that in the end, what makes this a really interesting concept for people is what we're really talking about is what if it's possible for everybody to win? What if that is
Yes.
possible? What if it's possible
Yes.
for everybody to actually win? So on that note, because we're winding down, we just go on journeys. Go around the galaxy once and come back and park for a while.
That's right.
So on that note, if you have no idea what we're talking about whatsoever, where can you find out more information?
Well, for one, you probably want to go back to the other episodes of our podcast because we just have continuous conversations really about the depth of community and what we're creating with New Earth co-creators. But if you do want to find more information, please go to our website, newearthcc.org. But also, you can reach out to either me or Deb through newearthcocreators@gmail.com,
Uh-huh.
which is exciting because we already got emails in actually where people reached out and asked questions and like, hey, this sounded really interesting. I love those conversations because
Yeah.
those are the people who inspire me to keep going and to continue to co-create. It's just beautiful.
And those who wish to have conversations, please, yes, show up. Let's have the conversations. And let's also make sure that, we are here talking, we're introducing a conversation, but the invitation in that conversation is also to not just talk about this,
Yeah,
but
to
to
put
actually
action.
create, to show up, to be the person who is part of this and building this. Because as lovely as it would be for Isabel and me just to wave our magic wands and go, we're here, we actually, we require community to do everything that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're an interdependent species. We require one another to make this reality a real thing, not just in my mind or in the life that
Yeah.
I choose to live, or in Isabel's mind and the life that she chooses to live, but in the world today. There is as much possibility for this as there is anything else. So I choose this.
Me too. And like
Yay!
you always say, right? Together we rise.
That's
And
right.
we can only do it together. So let's join us. Join us, New Earth Co-Creators, newearthcc.org.
All
And with
right.
that,
Well,
we're at the end of our show, right?
yes, we are.
We hope everyone has a
Next time.
fantastic week. Enjoy it. Bring out your to-be list instead of your to-do list and see how it changes your perspective.
Absolutely. And love, forgive, accept, and be peace.
I agree. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.